The people who win big usually aren't the ones grinding the hardest. They're the ones aiming their effort with precision. What if the very trait you've been told to fix, your laziness, is actually your biggest asset? Let me walk you through it. Strategic laziness has nothing to do with doing nothing. It's about pouring your limited energy exclusively into the things that actually move the needle. Think of it like investing. You don't need to own 200 stocks to build wealth. A handful of the right ones, held with conviction, will beat a bloated portfolio every time. The ambitious but lazy person doesn't dodge work. They dodge pointless work, the way a smart investor dodges the stock that's up 3% on hype with nothing behind it. Picture two people chasing the same outcome, building a profitable online business. One grinds 80 hours a week on every single detail, checking their portfolio of tasks hourly like a day trader glued to red candles. The other zeroes in on the handful of high-leverage moves and automates or cuts everything else, like an investor who buys quality and lets it compound. Half a year later, the second person has a business that runs itself, while the first is exhausted and stuck. Effort isn't the deciding factor. Leverage is. We've all stayed late, grinding for hours, and then blanked when asked what we actually got done. That's the productivity version of trading in and out all day and ending up flat after fees. Busyness gets mistaken for output. Funny enough, we'll burn 3 hours reading about the next big stock instead of just doing the boring work of holding what already works. Spotting when an activity isn't worth doing, that's the real skill. Chapter 1. The 80-20 Rule. Your new operating philosophy. If 80% of your effort only produces 20% of your results, most of your day is dead weight, same as a portfolio where 80% of your gains come from 20% of your positions and the rest is just noise. The Pareto principle isn't a theory, it's closer to a market law. A small slice of causes drives most of the effect. The ambitious but lazy person doesn't try to improve everything. They find their winners and double down, the way a smart investor lets the compounder run and trims the dead weight. For a salesperson, the 20% might be chasing warm leads. For a creator, it's making content, not fiddling with the setup. Once you find your 20%, you don't diversify away from it. You concentrate. We often feel accomplished clearing an inbox. The same false comfort as feeling productive because you checked the market 10 times today. Checking isn't compounding. I once spent a whole day reorganizing my files and never opened 90% of them again, like rebalancing a portfolio nobody's going to look at for a decade. Chapter 2. Cutting down decisions to save mental fuel. Every decision burns mental energy, and decision fatigue quietly wrecks output the same way overtrading quietly wrecks returns. Every unnecessary trade, like every unnecessary decision, has a cost even when it doesn't show up immediately. The fix. Build defaults, rules, and templates that erase thousands of tiny choices, the way a systematic investor sets rules in advance, instead of deciding fresh every single day whether to buy or sell on emotion. Set a fixed schedule. Adopt personal rules like, I don't check prices before market close, or creative work comes first. Simplify food and clothing choices. Every decision removed is energy banked for the calls that actually matter. I own 5 nearly identical work outfits. Friends think that's strange. I think it's stranger to burn brainpower on fabric choices when that energy could go toward reading one good earnings report instead. Chapter 3. Designing your environment. So good choices are the easy ones. Your surroundings beat your willpower every time, which is exactly why the investors who never check their portfolio outperform the ones staring at the ticker all day. Willpower is overrated. Environment does the heavy lifting. Want to hold your position through volatility? Delete the trading app from your home screen. Don't just mute the notifications. Want to focus on deep work? Phone in another room, not silent on the desk. Small friction tweaks, big behavior shifts. I once tried to quit checking stock prices through pure willpower. 2 hours later, I caught myself refreshing the app while reading an article about not checking your portfolio. That's when it clicked. Willpower is just an expensive way to fail slower. Chapter 4. Automate it once, benefit forever. What if doing something once meant it kept happening automatically forever? That's not laziness. That's a dividend reinvestment plan for your entire life. Set the drip up once and it compounds without you touching it again. Automate your recurring tasks the same way you'd automate a monthly buy. Build the template, set the rule, and let it run. Templates for emails, scheduled posts, auto pay for bills, standing checklists for anything repeated. Each one frees up bandwidth the way automatic investing frees you from timing the market. I once spent 3 hours automating a 5-minute weekly task. My friend called it inefficient, until I pointed out that over a year, that's nearly an hour saved. Same math as why a 1% expense ratio matters over 30 years, even though it feels tiny today. Chapter 5, Systems Beat Goals. Want to hit something once? Set a goal. Want it to keep happening? Build a system. The same difference between I want to be rich and I automatically invest 20% of every paycheck. Goals live in the future with no instructions for today. Systems quietly push you forward every single day, bull market or bear. Don't set a goal to build wealth. Build a system where you invest on the same day every month, no matter what the headlines say. Don't aim to get fit. Design a routine that gets you to the gym 3 times a week automatically. Most resolutions die the same way most stock tips die. No system behind them, just a one-time decision with nothing to sustain it. Chapter 6. The minimum effective dose. More effort rarely buys proportionally more results. Just like trading 10 times a day rarely beats buying quality and doing nothing. The minimum effective dose is the smallest input that gets you the outcome. Everything past that is wasted motion, or in market terms, wasted commissions. In fitness, 20 minutes of intervals can beat an hour of steady cardio. In investing, one well-researched position held with conviction often beats 10 mediocre ones you're constantly tinkering with. Find your minimum effective dose everywhere. I used to obsess over crafting the perfect email until I realized the recipients were replying, "K thanks," from their phone in the elevator. Sometimes we're polishing things nobody else is looking at. Same energy as building a spreadsheet model for a stock you were going to buy anyway. Chapter 7. Delegate without micromanaging. Your time might be worth $1,000 an hour and you're spending it on $15 an hour tasks. The same mismatch as doing your own tax loss harvesting spreadsheet instead of paying someone $200 to do it right. Real leverage starts with realizing your hours aren't all worth the same. Hand off anything someone else can do 80% as well for a fraction of the time or cost. That's the whole logic behind index funds. You're delegating stock picking to the market itself instead of doing it manually for a marginal edge. Track your week, flag the low-value stuff, delegate the outcome, not the process. Trying to do everything yourself is like managing every stock in the S&P 500 by hand when a fund manager already built that machine for you. Chapter 8. Build things that earn while you sleep. The real gap between the wealthy and everyone else isn't work ethic. It's that their money and systems keep producing while they sleep. That's literally what a dividend stock does. It pays you whether you're at your desk or not. The ambitious but lazy person builds assets, digital, intellectual, or financial, that keep generating value with zero daily effort. A friend once asked me, "Isn't building passive income actually a ton of work?" I said, "Yes, once. A job is a ton of work every day for 40 years. A good asset works the other way around." Chapter 9. Making strategic efficiency a whole lifestyle. What if your entire life ran on this same logic? Maximum result for minimum wasted effort. The way a well-built portfolio doesn't need you fiddling with it daily to keep growing? Apply minimum effective dose to your workouts. Automate your investing. Curate the people around you as deliberately as you'd curate holdings. A lot of high achievers look successful on the outside while quietly burned out inside. The personal finance equivalent of a portfolio that looks great on paper but keeps the owner up at night from overtrading. Real mastery looks like effortless effectiveness, not visible struggle. Being ambitious and lazy isn't a contradiction. It's the same edge that separates the investor who compounds quietly for 20 years from the one who's exhausted, overtrading, and somehow still behind. What's the first idea here you're putting into practice? Drop it below, and if you got your own ambitious but lazy move that's paid off, share it.